Good evening. My name is Chinemerem Joseph, and I welcome you to today's edition of You and the Economy. Lack of monitoring, sometimes bordering on nonchalance and indifference, has been identified as the bane of most intervention schemes in developing economies across the world. To prevent its intervention schemes from being subjected to such unwholesome fate and failure, the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, put its money where its mouth is by according strong priority to the monitoring and evaluation aspect of the projects being implemented by beneficiaries of the intervention programs it had established in the discharge of the development finance aspect of its core mandates. As a result, the bank draws a clear schedule for monitoring these projects and also for the oversight of the beneficiaries that execute them. In fact, the CBN adheres to the M&E program, thus drawn faithfully. This is to ensure that funds disbursed are spent judiciously and deployed for exactly what they were released for. The oversight role is also to ensure that the release of subsequent tranches of funds is tied to good performance so that the timelines set for the execution of projects are not derailed. In line with that oversight philosophy, a team from the CBN conducted a monitoring and evaluation exercise over some beneficiaries of one of the intervention schemes of the bank who are based in Lagos State recently. The team appraised select projects being funded under this intervention scheme, which are being executed by beneficiaries who are spread across critical sectors of the economy, such as power distribution, transportation, the downstream sector of the oil industry, steel and aluminium fabrication, as well as manufacturing. You and the Economy was on the entourage of the CBN project inspection team, and we now flag off our report on the exercise with a story on the team's visit to its first port of call, Ikeja Electric Distribution Plc.
The interaction and interface that the team from the Central Bank of Nigeria had with select beneficiaries of the interventions of the CBN in the economy who are based in Lagos State focused on the monitoring and evaluation of some of the projects that were being executed by these beneficiaries with the funds disbursed to them through deposit money banks from the facility they had subscribed to under the intervention programs of the Apex Bank. The visits were also intended to enable the CBN team understand some of the crucial lessons learned by the beneficiary companies in executing the projects for which they obtained funds, and to ensure that they had actually delivered on what they committed to when they obtained the loans provided under the intervention program that the team came to monitor and evaluate. The beneficiaries visited by the monitoring and evaluation team were funded under the Real Sector Support Facility RSSF intervention of the CBN through the bank's Differentiated Cash Reserve Requirement DCRR regime. According to its guidelines, the Real Sector Support Facility was established by the CBN to increase credit to priority sectors of the economy which have sufficient employment generation capabilities and high growth potentials. Other objectives of the facility are to increase accretion to Nigeria's foreign reserves, expand Nigeria's industrial base, and consequently diversify the economy. Essentially, the RSSF was created to unlock the potential of the real sector, that is, agriculture and manufacturing, to promote output growth, value-added productivity, and job creation. On its part, the Differentiated Cash Reserve Requirement (DCRR) regime, through which the RSSF is funded, provides cheap funds to deposit money banks (DMBs) interested in granting credit finance to new projects, otherwise known as greenfield, and expansion projects, better known as brownfield, in the agricultural and manufacturing sectors. Under the regime, the CBN allows DMBs to request for the release of funds from their cash reserve ratio (CRR) to finance these projects, subject to the DMBs providing verifiable evidence that the funds shall be directed at the projects approved by the CBN. The cash reserve ratio itself is a regulation that sets the minimum amount that a commercial bank must hold in liquid assets with the CBN. The funds disbursed under the RSSF are channeled to beneficiaries to meet expenditures under cost headings that include capital expenditure, popularly known as CAPEX, as well as operational expenses, OPEX. The CBN Monitoring and Evaluation Team was led by Yila Yusuf, Director, Development Finance Department (DFD) of the bank. The department is tasked with superintending the interventions of the CBN in stimulating sectors of the economy. Yusuf led a high-powered team comprising some other directors of the CBN, including the Director, Risk Management, Dr. Blaise Ijebo, Director, Strategy Management, Clement Buhari, Director, Trade and Exchange, Dr. Mrs. Ozemena Naji, Director, Banking Supervision, Haruna Mustafa, and the Director of Legal Services, Kofo Salam Alada. Other members of the team were the heads of key divisions of the Development Finance Department, as well as representatives of some officers under some of these divisions. With Lagos being the acknowledged hub of business and commerce in Nigeria, beneficiaries of the interventions of the CBN in the economy are naturally expected to abound in the former federal capital and its adjoining divisions. The visit of the CBN Monitoring and Evaluation Team therefore held the promise of being an extensive and elaborate affair. And it lived up to that billing. No wonder then that it lasted 2 days. Day one of the monitoring and evaluation visit was flagged off at the head office of Ikeja Electric Distribution Plc in the business district of Alausa, a suburb of Ikeja, the capital of Lagos State. With an installed distribution capacity of 5,442,933 megavolt amperes MVA, 17,986 transformers, and an estimated number of 1,200,000 customers, Ikeja Electric is one of the successor companies that emerged from the unbundling of the erstwhile Power Holding Company of Nigeria, PHCN, in 2012. Ikeja Electric has drawn heavily on the RSSF to fund quite a number of its projects. The company has also been very active in the implementation of the maiden phase of the National Mass Metering Program, NMMP, dubbed Phase 0, which was introduced by the federal government to accelerate the metering pace for electricity consumers in the country, with a view to eliminating the widely unpopular estimated electricity billing regime. CBN's other major interventions in Ikeja Electric are the expansion of the company's network to ensure that it relieves its overloaded transformers so that its customers can get more energy supply through its new transformers. In all, the company has benefited immensely from funds disbursed under the intervention programs of the CBN for both its capital and operational expenditures, that is CAPEX and OPEX.
Welcome to Ikeja Electric. My name is Folake Shweto and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Ikeja Electric. We're very pleased to have you.
In her address of welcome, Chief Executive Officer of Ikeja Electric Distribution Plc, Ikeja thanked the CBN on behalf of the energy sector for the critical role it has been playing to resolve the liquidity crunch, which she said the sector had been facing for about 18 months prior. Ikeja noted with delight that the interventions of the CBN have eased the pressure and led to improved liquidity. Regarding the relationship between Ikeja Electric and the CBN specifically, Ikeja credited the strides made by the company in the past 1 year to the financial support it has been receiving from the Apex Bank. She, however, noted that financial support was channeled towards tackling projects earmarked for execution in year 2021 by Ikeja Electric, and therefore appealed to the CBN to offer similar support to the company to enable it to execute the project it had earmarked for implementation in the current year.
A lot of things that we've done over the last 1 year was simply as a result of the funds and the support that was provided obviously by the central bank. Thank you very much for your support. Thank you. Yes, I think they deserve a round of applause. I think you deserve another round of applause. In order for us to be able to effectively execute the projects that we planned for 2022, we once again would require your support, as you've always done. For the National Mass Metering Initiative Phase 0, the record speaks for itself. Ikeja Electric, we executed on time. We completed the number of metering that was required of us. And we're very eager to start Phase 1. So I'm appealing once again for your support in helping us fast track that process.
Responding, the head of the CBN Monitoring and Evaluation Team, Yila Yusuf, said 24% of the bank's 8.3 trillion naira intervention portfolio had gone to the energy sector. He noted that such huge disbursements made it compelling for the CBN to undertake monitoring and evaluation visits to ensure that those funds were used for the purpose they were meant for. Yusuf commended some of the far-reaching innovations introduced by Ikeja Electric to serve its customers better and promised that the CBN will continue to support the company to tackle some of the critical challenges it faces in the realization of its business goals.
The bank, as part of its development finance effort, does disburse funds to different sectors, but monitoring and evaluation has to be done to just ensure that those funds are used for the purposes that they're meant for. Energy, of course, is a vibrant sector that is important for development. Without energy, electricity most importantly, there's no country that can go on the path to sustainable development. Let me also commend Ikeja Disco. I mean, I look at all the performance numbers month on month, and you've done very, very well. I mean, you've done excellently well. Let me also say Ikeja Electric has also been very innovative. We followed you with some of the things that you've done, especially around things like ring-fencing certain customers, and provided, electricity upwards of 20 hours with, with different prices. I think that's the only way you can ensure that you run the disco well. So well done for that. We want to learn, look at the challenges that you face, and when we go back to Abuja, we will look at how we can craft interventions that will suit, with a view to sorting out the challenges with that sector.
In the practical sense of it, monitoring and evaluation as an exercise is not limited to physical inspection of projects alone. Rather, it also involves appraisal of presentations made by the beneficiaries on how they disbursed the funds they accessed from their creditors, especially where such presentations had dwelt on how the execution of the projects impact upon what the funds was faring and the extent to which the lofty goals that earned the loan request approval in the first instance were being achieved. It also helps the creditor party to determine if the scheduled timelines for the release of subsequent tranches of the loan approved to a beneficiary should be adhered to, and if so, when the funds should be released.
So after that, we also have a very strong GI.
Besides focusing on the core business goals and modus operandi of Ikeja Electric in achieving those goals, the presentation by the company, handled by its key staff, also dwelt on what the company had done with the funds it accessed under the CBN's RSSF, how projects funded by the CBN were faring, efforts by the power distribution company to introduce novel initiatives to protect and strengthen its revenue generation capabilities and enhance service delivery to its customers, and areas in which it will need further funding from the CBN to enable it achieve its business goals more robustly. In line with the request by the CBN Monitoring and Evaluation Team that it be briefed on the challenges that Ikeja Electric faced in Phase 0 of the National Mass Metering Program and how it tackled them so that the CBN can better prepare for Phase 1 of the program, Ogochukwu Onyeluchea, the Chief Commercial Officer of the company, spoke about one such crucial challenge as well as the lessons learned by Ikeja Electric in tackling it. According to her, whereas meter asset providers, MAP, engaged by the company, were tasked to provide meters that could be read, that is monitored remotely by a back-end system at locations of Ikeja Electric, some meters supplied did not function that way. As a result, it was difficult to promptly establish when such meters were not vending, thus leading to massive loss of revenue. Onyeluchea explains this challenge further and how it was tackled by Ikeja Electric.
As at the time we were about completing NMNP, we saw that 30,000 meters didn't vend out of the 111,000 meters installed. We have a head-end system and where all our meters communicate to, particularly the meters that have the capacity to communicate. And at the signing off of our map, we ensured that most of our meters, the meters we approve for our vendors, are the meters that had that capacity to communicate to the back-end system. And now for some reason, maybe some SIM card issues, not all of them communicate at the same time. But we saw that we focused on looking at that head-end system consistently to know not just how they are vending, but the consumption on those meters. And about 30,000, like I said, didn't vend. And we sent our team into the field. Of course, maybe about 80% were bypassed, some had issues, and we corrected that. So by the end of the year, we were able to resolve it. We just had like 2,000 because the meters were 40 or burnt, and we retrieved that. And then what this made us to focus on is that we must focus on using technology to detect bypass, and which is what my colleague will speak to. So we had already planned to get a system we had called the IDB. We're already working on it, and I think he would elaborate on it. The lessons learned from here was that we would not allow any meter that cannot communicate at the point of installation in our network.
It was no surprise that after Ikeja Electric had identified the non-vending of a huge number of the meters it installed, largely because of energy bypass, as one of the daunting challenges it faced in the 0 phase of the National Mass Metering Program, and also as a problem through which it learned significant lessons, the CBN monitoring team naturally sought to be briefed about the IDB, which stands for Intelligent Data Box, which is the innovation being put in place by Ikeja Electric to rein in energy bypass. For the greatest threat to the survival of an electricity distribution company is energy theft, and if it is unable to prevent this scourge, the company may well go under and be rendered incapable of servicing its obligations to its creditors. For ease of understanding, energy or power theft is characterized by the illegal bypass of meters by customers to evade or at best reduce payments due for the energy they consume. Ugochukwu Obichukwu is the Chief Technical and Marketing Officer of Ikeja Electric. He speaks on the Intelligent Data Box Platform initiative of the company to tackle energy bypass and power theft.
It's a meter that would be impenetrable, so customers won't be able to bypass. It's one thing to install meters for customers, have your revenue protection team go around and try to detect bypass or to correct bypass, but that is a huge task on its own. And we don't think that it's a route that we would continue to go down over the next few years, because that means you're going to have to keep huge staff, monitoring staff, and going on the field, and that's a huge operational cost for a sector that is supposed to operate on a very low margin. So with the intelligent data box, the customers are unable to penetrate that meter. You can't even see the meters that are in there. So just to give you a brief description, so you can have a block of flats, or where you have maybe 10 units or 6 units, and then you have a meter that is in a box. Everybody's meter is within that box, so you can't even see your meter. Now, the meter itself has a check meter inside it, where if you bypass one meter, it automatically reconciles and knows that there is a gap. And when it sees that gap, the person who bypasses immediately gets cut off, because it's intelligent enough to know who has bypassed. Because all it does is that it knows how much energy it has passed through it, and it knows how much energy has gone out of it as well. So that automatically disconnects. So we've piloted this over the last 6 months, and astronomical results. I wish we had time to show you. We've seen our ETC losses go down to 0% in some of these areas. We've seen customers who have attempted to bypass not being able to bypass it. We've seen in revenue assurance done 100%. Our entire revenue is assured. Our model basically is to get people who manufacture these meters. We give them the prototype, the design, the whole idea. They go fix, manufacture this box, bring it down, and then install in our system. So we've done the first batch, and the plan is for us to roll this across the network. So that's our more, what I would say, permanent solution to energy theft. And we think that once you see this working, a lot of other discourse will adopt it, and this will basically plug a lot of the leakages that we have with energy theft in the country.
At the end of the visit, head of the CBN Monitoring and Evaluation Team, Yila Yusuf, and the Chief Executive Officer of Ikeja Electric, Folake Shoeton, spoke with the media.
I'm really impressed because, take for instance the National Mass Metering Program. They've exceeded the 106,000 meter target that was set for them by NEC. That's phase zero. Phase zero was for 1 million meters, of which Ikeja Disco was to do about 106,000. They've exceeded that. Phase one is for 3 million meters. We have seen the plans that they have. They've enumerated the customers. They've identified the type of meters they intend to use, both on the OPEX and the CAPEX and other interventions that they've taken from the central bank through the banks. We've seen progress, be it substations that they're renovating, be it new transmission lines they're putting in place. We're quite impressed. And for me, most importantly, they've been very innovative in doing some of the things that we've seen. So myself and my team that are here are happy with what we see, and we'll take the feedback back to the office.
So how much have you really disbursed to them? And are we expecting new disbursements?
Ikeja Disco, across the various interventions, in excess of 40 billion has been disbursed to them, and we've seen what they've utilized the funds for. We're happy, and we're proud with some of the facilities that we see on ground. So it's an ongoing thing. We are going to be visiting other projects, you'll see, but we're happy overall with what we see. We're quite impressed.
And they said they need new funds. Are we expecting how soon?
Yes, it depends on the performance. So we'll go back to the office. If there are any delays, we'll try and find out exactly why those delays. Remember, they're regulated by NEC. Our job is just to disburse based on what NEC has set out for them. But from what we see here, if there are any needs and there are any requests in line with the guidelines that we set, we're ready to really ensure that they get them.
The funds that we're getting from Central Bank is meant to help increase energy, to help reduce losses, and to improve power that we're giving our customers. We've gotten over 40 billion now, and we're still working with CBN to ensure that we get more.
You're welcome back. As we told you earlier, the monitoring and evaluation exercise of the CBN team covered beneficiaries in diverse sectors of the economy. In the next edition of the program, we shall bring you yet another report on the monitoring and evaluation exercise. We believe you enjoyed today's story on the exercise. And it is on that note that we sign off on today's edition of the program. Thank you so much for watching, and do join us again next week for another interesting episode. See you then.